Wigan, Wigan, Wigan. As promised, an analysis of Wigan Warriors against their future Challenge Cup final opponents, Huddersfield Giants. They happen to play them in Super League the week after they qualified for that said grand final, the said cup final. Sorry, I've been living in Australia for too long. Let's share the screen. Let's have a look at Wigan. So as promised, here's the shared screen. Wigan are in the pink jersey, and we're having a look right now at their exiting from their own end. Let's have a look. I always worry when I see this. So I'll put my cursor around these people here. You'll see that most of the team are looking at the ball. Obviously, it's very early in the set. I'd like to see Wigan get as quickly as they can into an attacking shape, either tram line to tram line or touch line to touch line, spread out nice and evenly. The reason being is it's really easy for Huddersfield to defend what is in front of them right now. Have a look yourself. I mean, what else is the ball going to do right now apart from get carried up here? He's carrying the ball like a loaf of bread in one arm, or he may pass to this fella. That's about all that can happen. Good push through, though, by the way. But I guess what I'm saying is they've got to quickly get into shape as quickly as they can. Play two, they've still not got into anything resembling field balance. There is a bit of push around the ball, so I can tell that the coach coaches that, but it's still very easy to defend. And I'm all about lifting the negotiables, the amount of negotiables that defenders have to think about so that they end up on the heels. So when I say this, I think it's quite easy to defend. The other thing is he ran an overs line there. I've talked to you about that before. Made himself quite easy to tackle. If I just rewind it a little bit, see that? How he's opened his body up there? I'm not sure who it is, sorry. And he's gone into the collision, into out, and it makes him easy to control. Very easy to defend this, and they keep going out all the time. I wonder if it's a strategy to try and find the front to go step out. Personally, I prefer unders lines, getting wide of the ruck and running unders. That tip-on was actually really good because the reason it was good, and I think sometimes forwards pass the ball just for the sake of it, the reason that one was really good is he was giving the ball to somebody in a better position than him. Because look, he's attracted a defender there, he's attracted that defender, and that defender engaged a little bit, so therefore created that space there. So that's a really good play there. So that's a bit more from Wigan, a bit more option and enterprise, which is good. And the kick, I didn't even keep it to the end. Let's have a look at this exit set, see if they improve. Easy to defend, good run, but easy to defend. Let's have a look at their shape around the ball. They're a little bit wider this time, so I dare say the coach was saying, come on, get yourselves a little bit wider. Let's have a bit more push either side of the ball. Let's have a bit more field balance either side of the ball. Again, probably a bit too tight to the ruck, though the marker did a good job of chopping him down there. I'd argue a bit better there in terms of, if I just rewind that a little bit, in terms of, did you see how the forward runner, I would like him a little bit wider from the ruck so the markers don't come near to him, but he actually threw a little dummy here and it just put the defenders on the heels a little bit, and he managed to get some half-decent go forward. So a bit more enterprise there, which is good. As I've gone through these sets, Wigan have made themselves a little bit harder to tackle. They seem to be focusing on the middle of the field, trying to work people over there. I assume they've identified Huddersfield as being a bit of a heavier pack or a lazier pack. Let's have a look how they defend, eh? Okay, not a bad kick chase, and that was a line there too. So always good to have a line. They're quite a compressed defence, but they do rush up on the edges a little bit. Let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. That ruck was a little bit too quick for my liking, and obviously there's something wrong with the defensive line for the referee's liking. Okay, what's coming quite clear to me now, and this is the first time I've looked at this properly, is that the Wigan team have a defensive system where they want these edge men to come up. So 2 in, 3 in, 4 in, we'll call that. Straight away, that would suggest to me that if you're going to play against Wigan, maybe turn back against the grain so that they have to work over zealously to defend nothing. And that, I think, is what Huddersfield were trying to do a little bit. Hello, Watto. Yeah, the Rays don't get up very much, Wigan. And did you see the collision there from number 11? Lost his feet. It was a chesty collision, and he basically got knocked a little bit backwards. we're going to do rushing now in defence, but you'll still see that third man in coming in. So I think that's a strategy from them. When I face teams that do that, what I tend to do is shorten my passes. So I remember once coaching against a team that had a massive shooter, so we just turned the ball back inside all the time. So the shooter was shooting nothing, basically. I just felt the whole theme of that set was a little bit rushed. You see Huddersfield switch the ball then. They're obviously identifying that they want to switch the ball back against the grain because of what I've just been explaining to you. Passive collisions a little bit, losing the feet. That is not good if you want to control the ruck, because it's easier for the tackled player to get up off the floor and play it. And you can tell now Huddersfield have picked it up. Coach Watson has picked it up. They're turning the ball back inside so that those shooters don't come into play, or they're playing short. So Huddersfield are playing it in quite a good way here. So in terms of the future for Wigan, and in terms of where this might put the Challenge Cup final, I would say it's a 50-50 game, because Huddersfield won that game. I think Wigan are obviously doing better in the ladder, in the Super League ladder, so Wigan probably slight favourites, but ultimately a cup final is a 50-50 game. And if I'm coaching that against Huddersfield, I want to get better shape coming out in attack, better field balance, give them more to think about so they're not as easy to defend. Wigan in defence, I would probably want my A's and B's to get up just as quick as my fringes are too. I sometimes don't understand how anything but a defensive line isn't the best option. I really struggle with that sometimes, and I've been coaching the game a long time, and I know there's umbrellas, and I know that shooters can really disrupt things, but to have a few people actually moving up like that, what that does is leaves bigger spaces in behind, and they can be exploited, particularly if the opposition coach is good, as Ian Watson is, and smart. So Challenge Cup final, really interested. Would be remiss of me, though, not to mention the passing of the great administrator, Maurice Lindsay. May he rest in peace. Maurice Lindsay, for those who don't know, was probably the man who was chief architect of the Wigan that you know now, the famous Rugby League name, the famous Rugby League club. They were arguably the biggest rugby league club in the world for a long period. That might not quite be the case now, but they're still very well known around the world. If you think about some of the players in the past, like Martin Offiah, Andy Gregory, Sean Edwards, Dean Bell, so many names. I could sit here for 5 hours listing the names, but if you'd have seen them, if you were an Australian growing up watching Challenge Cup finals, Wigan would have been in the majority of those. So Maurice was the man behind all that, in terms of being the chairman and signing players and whatnot. There's a lot of people in the game used to have not the best words to say about him. He was a divisive character at times. I certainly got on the wrong side of him a few times when I was there in England. But look, ultimately, I think everybody really respects him for what he did in the game and where he got Wigan to, and some of the things that he did while in charge of the game too. So Maurice, may you rest in peace.